Hi everyone, it's Paul back with another quick hints and tips video for KETRON event. Now, in my particular case, I'm using the EVM module, but if you have the KETRON event keyboard or indeed the Event X module, exactly the same thing will apply. What am I going to show you? I'm going to show you, and this is a brilliant feature, how you can just bring in sounds, maybe just for one note or two notes or a bar, and then drop that sound back out. And in many cases, without actually taking your hands off the keyboard or needing to select a separate sound or separate registration. Let me just show you the effect. This will be very short, but I want you to hear a vocal sound, and from time to time, I will bring in a brass shot at the right place. Just have a listen to the effect first. Wow. So I can bring that brass in this case, just on one particular note for a nice little brass stab, and then drop that sound back out again. So look, how do we do it? Hopefully you can see on the screen up in the top left-hand corner there, I have a sound made up of 3 layers. The first 2 layers are both vocal sounds, and that's that sound that you're hearing. Lovely little soft vocal sound. In the 3rd slot, I've got stereo brass, but you're not hearing it at the moment. So why aren't you hearing it? Well, if you look in the next column, the column to the right, you'll see I've assigned the 2 vocal sounds to be a first voice. Let me highlight one so you can see it. It says the word first. When something is selected as a first voice, it will sound all the time. The stereo brass, I'll highlight it so you can see it, is assigned as a second voice. So we're not hearing it. But if you set the type to coupling, then using the assign slot, we can use various different methods to bring that second sound in. I've chosen sustain, and I have disabled it as a sustain pedal. It just happens to be the only pedal I've got connected at the minute. So I've told it not to work as sustain, but we're going to use it to bring the brass in. And that's exactly what I did. Although you can't see me doing it, each time I press the sustain pedal, my brass comes in. And if I keep the pedal held, the brass will still sound. As soon as I release the pedal, we're back to vocal. Pedal on, I've got vocal and brass. Pedal off, just vocal. And that's how I was able to do. And that's great, you know, to have that level of control is brilliant. There are different ways that I can bring that sound in. So if I just use the arrows here to change, if your instrument's got aftertouch, you can bring it in using aftertouch. So you can use your vocal, press a bit harder, and in will come the brass. Sustain toggle. Now that's a little bit different to what I've just used. That means if I'm on my vocal and I press my sustain pedal, it triggers the brass on. Now, I'm not holding the sustain pedal anymore, and the brass will stay on until I press the sustain pedal again, then it goes off. So if you need the brass sound on maybe for a whole bar or a couple of bars, then use sustain toggle, because that saves you having to hold your foot on the pedal. If you just want it for 1 or 2 notes, then I would suggest just use it on the sustain pedal. Now you can plug a separate pedal in, just a foot switch, and assign it to the foot switch. That would make perfect sense. You can do it using the modulation wheel. So there's my vocal sound. If I was to flick the modulation wheel up, and as long as I hold that up, I've got my brass sound coming in as well. That's fine, but it does involve you taking your hand off the keyboard, and of course when you're holding that, it depends whether you need a chord change or when the next chord change is coming, but it is certainly an option. You can use the articulation button. In my case on the screen here, press articulation, and in comes the brass, and we'll take it back off again. But once again, you've got the same dilemma. Do I want to take my hand off the keyboard, and is there a chord change coming up that I need to be back for quickly? But hey, look, you've got lots of different options. Let me just show you another sound that I put together. This one's a James Last orchestral sound, and if I press and hold it, you will see that we've got slow strings, ensemble, and smooth horns. But again, you can only hear the strings at this point. And if I take you through to, by the way, on page 3 there, you can see I've disabled my sustain pedal as working as a sustain pedal because it's actually switched off on that column there. So we go through to page 5. Yes, the smooth horns are assigned as a second voice, and I'm going to assign them to my sustain toggle. So now we can play, and we've got it on key start. Let's give it a go. You should hear the strings, and I should be able to bring the brass in and out as I want it. So strings only, brass. Strings only. Brass. Strings. And bring the brass in. Back to strings. And bring the brass. Trust me, you can get some brilliant effects using this, and how great is that to be able to bring sounds in and out, in my case there, without the need to take my hand off the keyboards.